Hello, hello, and welcome back. This is the Poet is a Human with the Philosopher Dunamis on this week's episode number 7. Episode number 7, baby. Fight for farming. Please be sure to hit that like button on your way in. And hey, if you like us, like us, you should consider subscribing to keep up with our episodes on YouTube and give us a follow on X.
Fightcast is here to empower individuals to live healthier, master their finances, pursue their dreams, and inspire others through self awareness and global impact. Remember, this is for entertainment and educational purposes only and not financial advice.
Dunamis, how are you, man?
Oh, it's it's been a week, man. It's been
Yeah,
there's been a lot. It's been good and bad.
yeah,
But
I agree. I agree. I definitely agree.
um but you know, I got a job offer.
Good.
So there's good coming here soon. I don't start here for a little while, but yeah, it's there. There's been some struggle, but I think we're probably coming to the end of it, and that's the important thing, right? So
I feel it. I totally feel that, and I too received an opportunity as well. So it will be perfect for what I'm doing currently. It'll be the part time for this is my full time gig. So I'm really excited, and yeah, man, it's been a trying week for sure. I had a really good pistachio latte today and
mm,
I had some avocado toast with the fried egg on top and the smashed avocados, of course, and
ooh,
had some pickled onions and some feta. And I also had an espresso martini, which was pretty tasty. And I tell you, I posted it on my social media, but it was just some good food for the winter and just this little funky vibe I've been feeling the week. My friend always I don't want to say always, but feels that it's good for me to be outside, and I always disagree with them wholeheartedly. Because once I'm in hermit mode, I'm in hermit mode. But being out today helped out a lot for sure. So yeah, don't forget to live life, go outside, breathe, get some sunlight, natural sunlight, all that good stuff. That was the moral of the story.
oh yeah, yeah. Where did you get the food from?
So there's a spot up in town. So I live out in the sticks. So there's a spot up in town. It's like it's almost like a food court-ish area. I don't
Okay,
remember the name of it. It just came about here not too long ago. But it's a little area where there's a food court and there's some shopping centers as well. So you're able to enjoy the best of both worlds. It's really cool. They have this store there that and I really would love to be an ambassador for Roosevelt. They have some incredible shirts that I love to wear. They have some Marvel, DC, Napoleon Dynamite, SpongeBob's, all sorts of different types of shirts. And it's a really dope material. And they're incredible to wear in the summer, where you've got the button ups or they've got the top portion of it where it buttons up a little bit. I'm getting totally sidetracked, y'all. But if y'all have not looked into the Roosevelts, you absolutely should. It is the best summer shirt. And I'm pretty sure that they may have some sweatshirts out there somewhere. I know they have long sleeves, but yeah, I think between that, Silver Regime, and Diamond Cross. Yeah, buddy. But
vote for
anyways,
Pedro.
yeah, vote for Pedro. Oh man, I can't wait till we get to see each other again. I packed it. I packed that shirt
Oh,
while we were in Texas the first time, yeah, and didn't wear it. I wore the Big League Chew one, but I had the Napoleon Dynamite one ready.
oh, nice.
Absolutely. So next time.
Very cool. Very cool.
Yeah, for
Well,
sure. Sorry, y'all.
no, that's awesome, man. And it sort of leads us into where our food comes from. Like what we do is you got this avocado toast, from
Mhm.
from the market or from the shop that you go to, and
Yeah.
it sounds great. I mean, that sounds like really good, wholesome food. I know a lot of times where a lot of times the food is so processed now, when you go to a lot of these like fast food kind of places or different places around, and it's not recognizable as real food anymore. And so
Right.
all of that to say that we're talking about farming tonight, and with farming, uh, that's where real food comes from, you know.
Absolutely.
And the we had a similar episode early on that was, I think it was episode number 2 even, Fight for Money,
Hmm.
and one of the important things that we wanted to stress there was we weren't just talking about dollars, we weren't talking about, fighting for fiat money, we were talking about there were good kinds of money and there were bad kinds of money, There was, hard money and easy money, and hard money holds its value and easy money loses its value. And in that same way tonight, I think we're going to be talking about farming, and we don't want to disparage farmers to say that there's bad farming, but there's definitely a more traditional monoculture type of farming, which I think we've seen over the last 40 years has resulted in a lot of food production, which has allowed cities to grow and the United States to increase in population and to become really a superpower in the world. But the nutritional value of the food has gone down. So there's an increase in food production, while at the same time we've had a decrease in nutrition. And we're seeing now there's an alternative to that style of farming, right? There's not just the traditional farming where you'll farm a single crop on an acre of land, and you'll basically want to sterilize the land of everything other than that one crop. And then you'll use chemical fertilizers to increase the yield of that one crop. And then that gives that land, that 1 acre, a single use, basically to grow corn, and that's it. I think what we like to advocate for, I think more now, is there are better ways to use the land that maybe doesn't result in just one output. You could get all sorts of outputs from the land. I mean,
Mean to manipulate the land in a space for it to be just one entity if that's not its if it's not a natural course. Does that make sense?
yeah, yeah. I mean, if you in nature, you normally have not only everything that you see above ground. That's the other key, right? Because you you come across nature in a forested area or a grassland would sort of be the natural state of what a lot of the United States was, when explorers arrived here. And the natural grasslands, you're not going to have a single species of grass or a single type of plant grow in isolation in nature anywhere.
So when I look at the alternatives or so and this is the other thing too, man. So we say the word alternative as if this was a another option, but when we look at how our our founding fathers of this land grew, this isn't anything new when we talk about mono farming versus uh permaculture. Like when we start talking about that and what it really means in its entirety. So
Yeah, I think
I,
that
yeah,
what we're talking about is the growth, the
yeah,
outgrowth of these conglomerate organizations that now are I don't know if it is just that the United States subsidizes the farmers, or these large farms have grown to feed into very specific, large, centralized companies. But absolutely, if you were to go back hundreds of years in days when people first came here, and if you were a homesteader and you came here, let's say with the pilgrims, even if you grew tobacco on your land, that's not all you grew because you had to eat. You know what I'm saying? So you would have to be aware of animal husbandry. You'd have to understand what it means to raise cattle, raise pigs, how to help them to procreate, how to feed them, how to handle their health and maintenance and everything associated with them. That would have been normal, common knowledge, I think, amongst people even just a few hundred years ago. Because how else would you feed yourself? Especially if you were now. This is supposing that you would come to the new world, early on. If you were in Europe, I would imagine that markets and other solutions have existed for a very long time. However, an agricultural rural lifestyle has always been and continues to be a big part of many people's lives. And so I do think that they need to understand all of those principles, right?
Yeah, definitely. It's oh my gosh, how the world goes around when you put all of these things into perspective for sure, man. I just like you said, these aren't things that are new. And how were those people able to survive if they weren't paying attention to those things, you know? And I feel like for growth, for progression, for for bigger establishments, whatever these cases may be, we stepped out. We stepped out, for mass production for sure, and it's impressive. Although it is very impressive to see what humans can do when we put our minds together to build something, the collateral that comes with it down the road. So I I get during those times, it's really hard to think, okay, well, in 30 plus or 100 plus some years, you're thinking about those moments and you're understanding the means of adapting, surviving in those current times. I totally, totally understand that. But here's the collateral. This is the conversation that we're having. This is the collateral of all of those things that we're thinking about. And then we go back and we do our research and we look at this, and this could have been so simple.
Yeah.
This
Well,
could have been.
for those that maybe don't understand, of course, the research that we've gone over,
Yeah.
and is maybe a little lost at where we're perplexed at how the world has kind of gotten to this situation. But for those that maybe aren't even aware of the situation, when we say that there's a problem with farming, or that we're at a certain situation right now,
Hmm.
um, let's let's say for the audience, try and summarize a bit of what that means, what that is. What
Yeah.
we're talking about is fertilizers and runoff, and but
Mhm.
what is the implications of what we're talking about here, I guess.
Humanity is beautiful, but we've got a lot of areas of improvement. So, where what we're looking at here, ladies and gentlemen, when you're looking at the mass production and manipulation of lands and what it takes to be able to do these things, there are a lot of things. You have to you've got to be able to put certain parameters in place for things to happen the way that you want them to, for you to be able to have control. So when we're talking about mass production, you're looking at uh, chemicals and and what it takes for these things to be sustainable in this in this space. All of this, all of these chemicals that we're putting into our foods for or these pesticides and these fertilizers, and you're going against the grain of one how the soil wants to how the soil wants to produce, and the health and the longevity of the soil as well. You know, we're talking about you've got a big plot of land, right? And one of the things that Dunamis and I, as we were, doing our research and watching some of these videos, one of the first things that you do when you're plotting land and you're wanting to get everything established is tilling. Well, tilling is actually not good to do for the ground, for it actually gets rid of the nutrients of the soil. So you're not able to absorb as much water, drying the soil out. So not healthy for growing. So when you think about that and what you have to do to replace those nutrients in order for these plants to go, think about how artificial that is, and then also think about what you're eating. And then in addition to that, when we're not just talking about plants, we're not just talking about corn, we're not just talking about soybeans, we're talking about the whole lay of the land. So you also have to consider livestock as well. That's a big thing too. So when you look at your packaged meat and you look and you see, bison grass fed, okay, well, that might be the case, but what's actually in the grass? Is it actually grass fed? So you all that's why you got to pay attention to these things, because labels, listen, like I have fallen for, the organic label. And there are some, and don't get me wrong, I'm not saying that it's always like this, but you just have to know the lay of the land and know what's in today's food to really understand, like, okay, is this label actually what it says it is? Or is it like, okay, outside looking in, yes, I see free range out here eating the grass, but okay, what's the soil like underneath? So going to a non-till to be able to not infiltrate, the soil like that, and actually doing the reverse and being able to retain and being able to put more carbon into the ground itself to retain more moisture in the soil right now. And we can dive a little bit more into that, but just to kind of paint a bit of a picture for you, and I really wanted to touch on how you first start cultivating the ground in order to, start planting these seeds, and just the difference in that versus permaculture is.
Yeah, definitely. The What we're talking about today is the farming that goes on in America today, that our cities rely on, that our towns rely on, that our villages rely on, and how there's really a better way. You're right, it's not a new way. If anything, it's an older way. And what we've gotten away from is doing things in harmony with nature. And we're absolutely, with the fertilizers that you're talking about, the chemicals, it's not just that they absolutely soak into the ground. They kill all the biodiversity. They kill the fungus and the bacteria and the insects that are actually important for the plants. And then that those chemicals run off into our streams and into our drinking water and poison us in other ways. So the artificial ways that we've separated out a corn farm over here and a soybean farm over here, and we're going to have all of our chickens in a big cage, you know, area over here,
Hmm.
and they're going to be treated inhumanely as well and kept all cooped up and everything, and we're going to have all of our cattle all together in some feeding cage like scenario, and they're
Right.
not actually gonna open graze on and eat actual grass, but many times they're fed, most cattle is fed grain, the same corn that we grow. So
Hmm.
we've learned how to grow one ingredient really, really cheaply, and think that that should become the basis for everything that we do. So
Yeah.
it it's it's so destructive because it's like you tip nature in one area, and that little tip of a domino tips over to the health of the animals, and it tips over to the health of the landscape, and it tips over and affects the health of the people that eat the food. And now we see millions of people in this country that have died from heart disease, from cancers, from diabetes, and from Alzheimer's. And so many of these diseases are now being linked back, not to even specifically, there may be genetic markers, but it's effectively the environment that you live in, what you eat, and where you live, and what you encounter that dictates whether that switch in your DNA is flipped on for you to have that disease or flipped off for you to not have that disease.
Yeah,
So it's it's important for us to understand the toxins that we put inside of us, and those toxins come oftentimes all the way back to the farm where it's being sprayed on directly on wheat
hmm,
or on corn. And what we're talking about, folks, we're not going to get too much into it tonight, but what we're talking about is glyphosate is one of the main difficult ones, and that is also known as Roundup. If you guys have ever heard of a chemical company named Monsanto, Monsanto also is a seed producer here in the United States, but one of these major chemical companies, they're a major player in politics in the United States. It's a big company, makes a lot of money. And
public knowledge.
public knowledge, guys, something to research. If you are not familiar with Monsanto, with glyphosate, with the chemicals that are put on your foods, it's time to look, take a look, and at least start paying attention so you can at least make a choice.
Right. 100%. And us as humans, we've all heard from our parents or we've told our kids, if you drink milk, you're going to grow healthy bones or, make sure you eat your protein. So there are these things that are instilled in us to want to be healthy. So I don't think anybody coming right off of the womb is like, yo, here's a Jolly Rancher. I might be wrong. I've not I don't know any of those people, but um, but there is a knowledge. There is a knowledge for that, and even a lot of people, in older generations will say the kids just don't grow the way that they used to anymore, and they'll even say the same thing. It's they're putting all this crap and food and this and that and boom boom boom, and it's starting their growth, and they're not wrong. Not wrong. I think about my grandparents and I just think about how tall they used to be. Honestly, I mean, I know that there were some short folks, but a lot of those people back then, I mean, like a little taller. I guess maybe not in history all the way, because I think about like I live in Ohio, so I've been to some older houses where houses were smaller, and sometimes I'd have to duck my head. So it doesn't necessarily apply for everybody, but just even the strength of people then. Even if we're just in a knockout height here, but just the strength of people then and just I guess the want. But I think between what they had to do and the way that they worked for their food versus the convenience that we have now, it's night and day. We have the convenience to DoorDash Whole Foods, so I feel like there's a lack of motivation in that along with other things. But yeah, I feel like all in all, us as people, just it's choices at the end of the day. It's choices, just like it's no different than, and I'm gonna make this really simple. Drumsticks or flats.
Oh, I like
It's as
flats.
You
I'm
like
a flats
flats?
guy. Yeah.
Okay, okay. Well, I like drumsticks, but I do like there's a secret art to eating a flat, and I might try it the next time. But
Oh, yeah, that's what I'm talking about, so that's what I like.
oh,
You
is that
talking about
your that
using the teeth to get the meat out from between the bones right there?
yeah,
That's yeah.
that's your
Flats
jam?
oh,
Okay.
yeah, yeah. So that's why you eat the flats is because you can get it's basically a one bite it's like a one bite the whole thing, and it's it's there, gone.
I need to take you up on that because I'm starting to grow into this messy mustache club. So
Oh, there you go.
I'm trying to find alternative ways to eat without having to wipe my mustache off with a wet cloth every time.
It's tough,
um,
man. It's,
yeah,
not just wings, but, ice cream is, particularly yeah.
anything with any kind of whipped toppings, anything of that sort. Yeah, I'm
Oh, yeah,
doing.
yeah.
Yeah, and I don't want to shave my mustache ever. But I digress. Well, yeah, drop 100% if you're not shaving your mustache.
Oh, yeah.
Fight me for
There you go.
it. But
We'll fight you in the
anyways,
comments.
yeah, for sure.
The
But going back to going back to Dunamis's point and looking at all of that with those chemicals and looking even back in times of like centuries before us and just how earlier farmers went about doing these things because I want to touch base on that more because I feel like it's important for us to really go back and one understand that this is nothing new. If there's anything that I could get into anybody's head today is that this is nothing new. This is stuff that we have gone off of the path. So when we say, well, let us be the counterculture of what's going on, what we're really saying is, let's go back to our roots, quite literally. So with permaculture, it's just that
you're talking like pre-industrial age kind of roots.
I'm talking pre-industrial age type of roots. I'm talking when what were the Native Americans doing? What
Yeah,
and when we look at farms back then in certain places that they even had them placed for the for the right nurture the the nurture of the plants and how they had these things positioned from where the sun is and how they captured water and because not water is 95%, that's
yeah.
so I mean that's a big part of what you got going on. So and one of the things that we're losing with the mono farming is the richness in the soil because of the chemicals that we're putting in there. We're doing the opposite of that. So being able to capture all of these, these holistic methods and just letting the land work for you and you just, being the one to provide tools and utility for the ground to be able to do what it needs to do. That's I know it seems a lot easier. It's easier said than done, but I think the process of us going back to our roots versus going against, I feel like there's going to be more of a natural flow in how we see abundance.
Oh, yeah. Because it's like you're letting the natural systems do the work for you. It's working smarter, not harder, right?
Right.
If if Will you talk about the nutrients in the soil that have been stripped out? I can think of two things just right off the top of my head that results in. So you have soil that is less dense, it doesn't capture the water, and so the water runs off, and you end up with flooding. You end up with water that goes directly into rivers and out to the ocean. It doesn't actually soak into the ground at all. And
Hmm.
then when you have soil that's not very healthy, you also end up with food that's not very nutritious. So, I think some of the things that they've done artificially you can end up with a larger tomato, but what's crazy is they've found that I think we heard that you would have to eat approximately 5 of today's apples. Was that what it
Yes.
was? To have
Yes. Five apples.
the same nutritional value of a single apple, even just, let's say 100 years ago.
Hmm.
So, it's crazy to think of the fact that our parents and our parents' parents ate vastly more nutritious food than we do today.
Hmm.
How did that happen? How does that
So
even
quickly.
happen? Yeah, in just a generation.
The other thing that's caused by that too, and we talked about it a little earlier before I went on, before I started to go on that rant, had to scale it back a little bit. But you're releasing a lot more carbon dioxide into the atmosphere as well. So when you are nurturing the soil, you are pulling the carbon dioxide back into the actual roots themselves, which is a natural occurrence of photosynthesis.
Hmm.
So when that is occurring, now those roots are able to build those tunnels
Oh
and
yeah.
be able to attract what it needs to attract to be able to grow in the way that it should.
Yeah, it's amazing the connections between our climate and all of this stuff. Which is just amazing to me that there's so many people that don't realize, you can talk about climate change and they'll come after cars, or say we need to we need to not eat beef, right? Or we need to do
Right.
this and that, whatever it is, for the reasons of climate change. And yet people have demonstrated what they call carbon sequestration, the ability of the plant through photosynthesis to take all of that energy and turn it into carbon sugars, basically. We're
Hmm.
all made out of carbon. We're carbon based organisms, and the plants are as well. So as they're growing these giant root systems, it's effectively storing carbon down in the earth. This planet is a magical place. It is an amazing environment and ecosystem that we have here. And the idea that as mankind we can screw it up, first of all, is a little is is a little egotistical to begin with. But I, as badly as we can screw it up, it's nice to know that there's systems built in. There's error correcting code built into this planet, and the error correcting code that's built into this planet, it gives us systems and ways that we're just now understanding now technologically. um, but we're understanding things at a biological level, how fungus works, how the bacteria works, how the roots of the plant systems work. And the more we understand how these systems work together, the more farmers of the future will be able to just not need to till, but add organic material to the top of the ground, add more layers of soil, work on the health of the soil, and therefore improve the quality, the taste, and the benefits that we get from the food that we eat, and
Hmm.
the benefits that all of nature and the world gets from that soil being as healthy as it could possibly be.
Right.
And that's the key that we're kind of learning about, is the key to farming is the medium. It's the soil that you grow the plants in.
Yeah, it's the key common denominator for a lot of these things, and just making sure that all of these things are as healthy as they can be. And there's so many other subs that tie into that as well. Not only knowing the soil, but knowing your native land and knowing the native seeds that will help nurture that, and what you're planting too, because I mean there's a flow with this. There's really an art, which is why in the beginning I said, it's a really tough job to get into with farming. It's not easy. That's a really heavy burden to carry. So all respect and all roses thrown to farmers. And we're seeing a lot of people now, like Dunamis mentioned, where we've got the intelligence, and we have more of a means. We've got more of these tangibles. We can see everything now. We know what a lot of these chemicals are. We've been able to build case studies, unfortunately, throughout the years of what these things can cause, and Dunamis listed a few of those things off, and that's just to name a few. But we're starting to see a turn of events where a lot more people are becoming educated in homesteading and understanding more about waters and purifications and the importance of water and what it means to our soil. And we see a lot of people too. Fungi has been a huge thing for a little bit now. Everything from how it affects us as humans, but just its overall importance to the development of our world, man. And that's another thing about the permaculture that I want to touch on, Dunamis, is not only are we looking at just reversing certain things with photosynthesis and how that's going to ultimately send or build stronger roots to cast out what they need, but the relationship that fungi have with these roots is something that is incredibly magical.
It is. The network that they build underground. I always like to say I'm a fun guy, but
Yeah, I'm a fun guy as well. Yeah.
there you go. Dad
Drop a
jokes
mushroom.
galore. Yeah,
Drop a mushroom. Drop a mushroom.
drop a mushroom in the comments below for sure. Yeah,
Yes.
the network, and that's another thing that's confusing is the term mushroom is really talking about just the spore sac that
Yeah.
basically sprouts up from the ground, that is how the spores are spread so that the mycelial network can move to another locale, right?
Hmm.
The mycelial network is the name for basically the fungal spores that, or one type of fungus that generally will blanket, create a network on a forest floor and
Hmm.
connect with the roots of trees and the roots of plants, and absolutely it uses enzymes to break down and absorb the minerals available in the ground. So it could be breaking down wood, breaking down an oil spill. It could be breaking down any sort of organic material that's underneath the ground. And what fungus is able to do almost magically is break down some of these components into their core elements. So something that would be a combination of some amount of the elements of hydrogen and oxygen and nitrogen and phosphorus and whatever it is, and some combination is some toxic thing. But when the mycelial network comes in contact with it, it can say, "Oh, I can use all of these things individually," and so it'll just break down all of these things.
So let me hit him with this one. So I'm gonna break this down for you guys real quick. So what he's saying is, and I'm gonna say it like this: "Oh baby, you got what I need." That is what he's saying. That's what he's saying.
Hell yeah, man! This, and it then takes those minerals and shares it with all of his friends. The trees over here and the plants over there, because they have what he needs, the sugars,
Hmm.
the carbons and the sugars that are stored in their roots. And so what humans haven't understood for thousands of years is the tilling was actually tearing that network up. This web that holds the soil together, that sits underneath our grasslands,
Hmm.
um, is really what we need to bring back. We need to intelligently go back and, as mankind, use our domain to take a piece of land and restore it back to the health that the land was intended to be originally. And any farmer today who is farming traditionally, who may be listening to this, using chemical fertilizers and pesticides and herbicides and fungicides, you don't have to use all of those inputs. You don't have to spend all of that money to do all of those things. and you can actually farm in a way and scale it up where you're going to get more outputs than you would have gotten before. You're going to get more outputs year round. You're going to get more diversity of food, but you're also you can still get corn. You know, you can still get um, what it is that you grow today, but you can get more. And not only can you get more, but by growing more, you can replace the fertilizer that you use. You can heal the soil naturally. There's systems that people are discovering. Permaculture is really the key word that you'd want to search Google to find more information about it. But this is what we're talking about now. It's a regenerative way of farming that works with nature, with the earth. It's not just extractive. We talk about community leaders, rug pullers in crypto, people that just extract from their community. This is the same kind of concept. But what we're talking about is there needs to be a dialogue. There needs to be a
Mhm.
back and forth between the farming, the farmer, and the earth. The earth
Mhm.
gives, but the earth also needs to receive. And a big part of what we're missing is very simply solved by just bringing the livestock and putting them back on the land. So where you have all of the cattle and the sheep and the goats that are all kept in pens right now, and their fertilizer is a problem and a waste, management thing that you have to solve on a farm. That's gold. That is what the plants eat. That is what
Yeah.
enriches the soil. That is what we're missing from 200 years ago, is that humans used to live in a situation where they grew their vegetables, their wheats, their plants, and they had their animals, and they all lived together in the same place. And that symbiotic relationship is what is missing both under the ground and above the ground. And there's so many distortions in the world today, man. There's so much strife.
Mhm.
We're in a period of, it feels like we're almost on the edge of a knife at times, but I feel really, really hopeful because I kind of see what the solutions are gonna be.
Yeah, same.
If all we need to do is just recognize it. And part of what
Right.
we want to do is wake people up to, this is, if you've been feeling in your heart at all that you need to start a garden, do it. It doesn't have to be, this is where at this point I think I want to not just talk about what it is we're talking about with regenerative farming, but how is it that an individual who's living in a suburban house somewhere, how can we take part? And your yard, your front yard or your backyard is a piece of this land that we're talking
Mhm.
about.
Right.
And we'll have a choice. Every one of us has a choice that owns a little piece of suburban land to grow a lawn or not to grow a lawn. I know that there's HOA restrictions and all of that too, but what within your means and within what you're allowed to do, you know, there's definitely, I would encourage people to start a garden. Start a garden in your backyard,
Something
start
simple.
learning about this stuff.
Yeah, 100%. And I want to get esoteric on them just for a quick sec, and I'll jump off of that. Folks, I want y'all to really capture the picture as I paint it for you. When you think about our land and you think about everything that you're consuming, it comes from this land. So when we talk about, what Dunamis was speaking on earlier about Well, one of the solutions that we can do to prevent, toxic gases in the earth is to stop eating cows. Well, how about we stop feeding our cows crap?
Yeah.
How about we stop feeding our chickens crap? Stop feeding our animals crap, our pigs, all of them. Stop feeding them crap, and then we won't eat crap, and then our ground won't absorb crap. Period. But we can't put that in the ground starting off. No, that's where it all stems from. It's not anything the cow did. The cow the cow just came in the world, through its natural course, just like we did. So for us to say, well, here's what we need to do and stop doing this and stop doing that, man, doing the miss, you know how many times I've heard black coffee is good for you and black coffee is bad for you, then black coffee is good for you and then it's bad for you. How many times have you heard something and then 6 months down the road they said, well, new scientist debunks this? Okay. All right. So one thing that I've learned in life is everything is just theory. In that space, especially when it comes from human. And I'm just being real about that because it's the truth. Because we're not perfect people, so we may have great thoughts, and we may be able to like manifest things, but everything was through theory, and then there were points with that. You can't deny the empirical fact that nature has been here before us and has taken its course without us for an extended period of time, and like Dunamis said, not to be egotistical, but man, we were here when it was nice, but man, we do a good job of messing some stuff up too. We sure do. But on the other end of that, to go back on what Dunamis was saying, is this is not the end. This is not the end. This is really just the beginning of a lot of things to come. And this information, take of it as you will. We all have choices at the end of the day when it comes to how we want our world to be, not only for us but for generations to come. And it's very simple. It is a very, very simple thing to do. And with farming, I was thinking about it because I one of the questions that I was going to ask for you, Dunamis, and I think I might be able to expand on it myself a little bit here. But and maybe it'd be a question for somebody asking, well, what about the insects and the things that could potentially harm your crops and things of that nature. That was one of the things that watching this video, I learned how that can even be, how there are solutions for that as well, and what you're growing and what attracts certain bugs that will keep other bugs away from harming other plants. So that's how deep this stuff can get. That's how deep this stuff can get.
There's actually, I found, I'm not an expert gardener by any means, but I have had a garden for a few years up in north of the Austin area. And I found that when I had trouble with aphids, for example, on my
Mhm.
tomato plants,
Yeah.
oftentimes it wasn't the best solution is not typically trying to think of how to eliminate that with a chemical or a spray, but oftentimes when you're doing this organically, you think of what is that problem's natural predator? What is that problem's natural solution in the world? And so for aphids, it's ladybugs. And you can actually buy ladybugs and release them. You can also attract them, with certain flowers and so forth. And so it's generally just thinking more naturally and trying to work with nature. Oftentimes, if you see a pest, it's shouldn't be thought of as a pest. It's part of God's creation, of course, and you could think of it is probably telling you something, and there's typically something that you can
Mhm.
do to solve whatever the problem is. Wasps and bees are great to have around your garden because as unpleasant, or as scary as they might be to be around for some people, they are great at taking out all those little they eat all of the bugs that like to eat your plants. So
Mhm.
generally you go and you find the natural enemy of uh The enemy of my enemy is my friend.
Yeah,
That's how it works.
exactly. And I bet y'all didn't think about that, did you? We're You guys are gonna be experts at gardening by the end of this podcast.
Well,
Wanna
maybe by the end of episode 100.
Oh, yeah, and that's how and we're gonna take it further than 100, but we're just letting you know that we're gonna get to episode 100 too.
Oh yeah, of course.
Yeah, that's how we rock and roll. And even going back to our first episode when we were talking about food and just thinking about everything and looking at it now, just wow. It just wow. Everything has a purpose, and the more we pay attention to these things, the more we're going to see some positive results with that. We have to be able to hit that reset button.
Yeah,
We got to really be able to imagine this reset button. We've got to be able to imagine ourselves putting our fingers on this reset button and going back into the native thought of how this really was. Now, don't get extreme on me, extremists, and be like, "Oh, you mean full on primal and just going on and throwing spears at each other?" That's not what I mean. I'm talking about
you're talking
the
about how we think about things, not
exactly.
necessarily. Yeah,
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. I just want to put those disclosures out there, just because there are people like myself out there that will nitpick that line, and I'm not going to get hit with with a crazy caption later. So,
yeah.
that part.
I agree completely that we need to reset our thinking though, because the way the way that humans have naturally progressed to our relationship with the earth is not what our relationship with the earth was at one point in time. And you could look at groups like the Amish, and you can look at groups like Native Americans that had more traditional beliefs that held them closer to the earth, and they can be examples now that we can look at and say, oh, okay, this is maybe more of what what things should maybe be like. But this is not for everyone. This is not, some people are going to hear this and say, oh my God, he's saying that everybody needs to go and be like the Amish and go and move out to
Not
the
what we're
country and
saying at
do.
all.
No,
Not what we're saying at all.
not at all. The What I am saying is that there's a calling that you might hear. And if you feel led, and if this stuff interests you, if you are all of a sudden super excited about the idea of growing food, like you never thought of that before, and that just sounds like a really interesting thing, there may be a reason for that, maybe not, but you should listen to your instincts. I think this is an important time in history for us to listen to your heart. It's it's okay to take risks within reason. Listen to your heart, follow your dreams, and some of you might feel like, gosh, I want to buy some land, I want to go out and set up a little cabin and see if I can grow some food and this and that. And, these are the kind of things you don't want to just jump into without really understanding and knowing and doing your research. I can say that that's sort of a path that I'm on. And I know it's going to take still probably a couple years of research before I'm ready to make a move like that. Right. But you guys will be here for it. We'll get to talk about it along the way. So
Yeah,
that'll be fun.
100%. Really excited, and I'm gonna be the one in the back that's like, "Buy the land, do the food."
Hell yeah, dude.
Do the research when you get there. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah. There is a great documentary if you guys get a chance. You'll have to look it up because I can't off the top of my head tell you what service it's on, but it's called The Biggest Little Farm. I even
Mm,
think there's a sequel, but if you find it, The Biggest Little Farm illustrates a lot of these principles that we're talking about. It's a fun little story about a family that moves out to start a little farm, and they didn't really know what they were doing when they went out and started. But really, I think this is an exciting thing for us to talk about at least. And it is for me. I hope it is for some of you. I think it is important where our food comes from. It has everything to do with our health, our nutrition. And on that note, I think it's important maybe next week for us to follow up on a fight for health where we can get into more of these things, our health and how it's linked to our food and nutrition, but also our mental health and what we need to do about that and focus on that this next week. What do you think, Izzy?
I love it.
Good deal. And before we wrap up, I just want to say we did say that we had a special announcement tonight, and we do. The special announcement is that we have a liquidity pool farm available now on MinSwap where you can earn fight tokens just for staking your fight liquidity pool tokens in MinSwap. And in addition to having that farm set up, I personally have pulled my liquidity pool tokens 90% out of the farm, which means everybody gets an extra boost right now. And what I will do is I will slowly stake my own tokens over the next 2 months so that for the next 2 months, you get an extra bonus for staking with Fight. So if you're staking right now in that MinSwap Fight liquidity pool, expect to receive some extra bonus tokens for the first 2 months as we get going. There we go. And again, next week we'll be coming back with Fight for Health. While we're here, make sure you hit like, hit subscribe if you haven't, follow us on X. What you thinking there, Izzy?
Nothing at all. I'm just celebrating the farming.
There we go. There we go.
I'm celebrating.
We're celebrating. And on that note, since you made it to the end, drop an ear of rice emoji in the comments down at the bottom since we're farming tonight. Till next week, brother.
Till next week, man. Always a pleasure.
Always a pleasure. Never give up the fight.
You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. Looking for change, looking for pain, pulling a mob, pushing a train. I'll never stop, stick to a lane, pick up the pieces and go rearrange. I'll be the best above all the rest, put me to the test and expect nothing less, your check as I'm chess, what's happening next, yeah. He got the venom, a tangible weapon, no coming in second. This life is a lesson, he got a new engine from pain, it's a blessing. New focus, no guessing, just bold and obsession, all in his possession. You got their attention, I'll leave an impression and take a redemption. Just kill, no discretion, your mind is a weapon. 11-11, it's time for progression, You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they're scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try the chains, you can say no, free me. So he's been looking for somebody who could save him, instead of searching inside for what they gave him. A strong will, strong mind causes mayhem. We could change the world, change times, rearrange them. Staying on pace, running the race. Life is a chase, I don't want a place, I wanna be first. Work till it hurts, dehydrated thirst till I'm in a hearse. High ambitions and the right mind can take you so far. It's like you lived a few lifetimes. Take off from a break off from the weak minds, they can stay soft. You can change lives, you create thoughts, never waste time. You got one shot, you got one life, better pop off. What do you like? Make a dream job. No 9-5, no mean boss, just my life and free thoughts. You could try to play, but you're never gonna beat me. Look the other way, what I'm doing ain't easy. Bloody hands stained from the people who deceive me. Muddy hands break through the chains, go free me. People like sheep move feet, hurt it easy. You don't wanna be fast asleep when they're scheming. Better stand tall, ready for a fight, believe me. When they try the chains, you can say no, free